This is Ellen Baumler, and actually I have a PhD in English, Classics, and History from the University of Kansas. And I came to Montana in 1988 with my husband. I was the interpretive historian at the Montana Historical Society from 1991 until 2018. I also did a lot of walking tours. I scripted walking tours for different communities, and I also began to write books. So I have written 13 books. 5 of them are about haunted places, and the other ones are mostly historical stuff. So I don't ever say that I'm sensitive to this kind of stuff. It's just that I happen to be in the right place at the right time sometimes. And that's what I think it is. I think, some people are very sensitive, and I'm just not one of them. But I have been in places at the right time when the past and the present seem to intersect. So I don't know. I don't ever get really scared, and I've had a few personal experiences. I guess the very first experience that I ever had, I was in high school in Kansas City, Kansas. My friend's father had passed away. It was the year anniversary of his death. I didn't know that, and she didn't tell me that, but her mother kind of wanted to be alone in the house, and they were having electrical problems, which was very unusual. They'd had an electrician come that day, couldn't find anything wrong, but the lights kept flickering on and off, especially the light in the parents' bedroom in the closet kept going on and off. And so she called me and said, can I come over and spend the night? And so another friend and I went to pick her up. Again, she didn't tell us anything. We came into the house. She said, I need to go up and pull some clothes together. So we go upstairs with her. We're about to step into her mother's bedroom when all 3 of us were standing in the doorway at the same time. And all 3 of us saw a depression on the bed, like someone was sitting there. We saw it go down, and we heard the bed creak. And as we looked at it, whatever it was got up, and the depression wasn't there anymore. And that was very freaky. And as a first experience, that was kind of scary. And we really didn't talk to my friend about it. I think she said, my mom kind of wants to be alone in the house, and she thinks maybe Dad is trying to contact her or something. And that's all she said.
There's 3 levels to Double Front. The very top level, they're offices now and just overflow storage. The main level, the street level, is the cafe where the kitchen is and everything. And then down in the basement is the bar. I had never, ever been told that this place was haunted. I had only been there probably about 3 months, 3-4 months. At that point in time, we closed at 11 o'clock. Upstairs in the kitchen, they're normally supposed to stick around. But there was one night in particular, the kitchen had been closed, and the guys up there were getting tired, and he came down and he asked me if it was okay if he dipped out for the night. It's like, yeah, that's okay. I've only got maybe 5 minutes left. I just have to do a couple more things. So part of our closing duties, right? We have a dumbwaiter. So it's like a service elevator, a dumbwaiter that goes between all 3 floors. If someone in the cafe on the street level wants to get a drink from down in the bar, I can send it up from the bar to the cafe, and vice versa. If someone in the bar wants to get some food, then they can send the food from the street level, from the cafe, down into the bar. I would know at the end of the night that there was no one in the cafe if the light was off in that dumbwaiter, in that elevator, and they sent it down to me. So this particular night, there was supposed to be no one up there because I had sent the last person away. Told him to lock the doors. I was finishing up the last of my stuff, and super out of nowhere, this dumbwaiter came down. And so that, to me, that early on into my working there, was a sign that there's still someone in the building. So I was like, what's going on? Ran upstairs. The cafe is completely dark. There's no one in the kitchen. Both the doors are locked, like they were supposed to be. There's not a soul. But then I started to freak out, too, because I was like, I just started working here. There's a burglar in here, There's something going on. And so I ran onto the next level, the top floor, where the offices are. Again, nothing. Lights off everywhere. And there's a couple of motion-activated lights up in the office there. None of those were triggered. Nothing was going on. And as soon as I was at the very top floor, I started to get real uncomfortable. Like, I don't know what I thought I was going to do, but now I'm in a weird situation because there's no one here. So, honestly, my brain is thinking that there's someone still. There's a human hiding somewhere. I went bolting back down into the basement. Did the last of the stuff that I had to do for the night. I'm supposed to send something up in the elevator. And so I ran over, put the stuff in there that I needed to, opened it, turned the light off, closed it, pushed the button to send it up. And as soon as I pushed that button, on the other side of the room, we have 6 Keno machines. As soon as I pushed that button on the other side of the room, every single one of those Keno machines, out of nowhere, started lighting up, started singing, started making noises, like flashing, just insane. And I freaked out, thinking, honestly, at that point, that I had done something wrong, that I shorted something. And I bolted and I left. Came to realize a couple days later, after I was talking to some coworkers, that didn't make any sense in the moment. There was something very funky there. And I was talking to the other bartender. She's been there for 26 years. Was telling her about it. She's like, oh yeah, no, that's probably George. And I was like, what does that mean? Who the hell's George? What? And that's when I learned that the place was haunted.
So the Badlander complex is one of the bigger places to go in downtown Missoula. So it's right across the street from the courthouse, right in the center of downtown. So the Golden Rose, the Badlander itself, locals only, 3 in the side. The Golden Rose, kind of dive bar. It's just your classic bar. And then there's a staircase right next to it, which is 3 in the side, which is a pool hall. And that's the only downstairs bar. And then you go back up the staircase. It's the locals only front. Locals only is its own separate bar. And then you go around that corner, and then that's the Badlander. That's more of the club part of the whole complex. So bouncing entails, I watch the doors, I kick people out when they needed to be kicked out. I was the bouncer. And swamping was the other part of it. I would clean all 4 of those bars. So, cleaning the bathrooms, cleaning all the floors, vacuuming, taking out the trashes at the end of the night, making sure everything was good to go for the next morning. I worked from 2:30 a.m. to 4 or 5 a.m. every night when everything was closed down. I was by myself, besides me or one other swamper or maybe the bookkeeper. And that was it. I probably worked there for a year and a half. I've dealt with ghost shit all of my life. Every house I've ever lived in is haunted. But this place was interesting. Like, I never felt truly alone there. It was very eerie, actually. I think the first time I ever saw or heard anything. Yeah, about 4 months in. I was downstairs at 3 in the side. And I was cleaning near the bar. And I heard glasses and bottles shift. And I thought at first, I was like, okay, maybe it's just, I don't know, something just like shifting like in the ground or something. But then that started happening every night. I started experimenting with it a little bit. I would move a bottle onto the bar and I would do my business and I'd hear a shift and I'd kind of ignore it just to see what would happen. And I'd look back and the bottle would be about a foot from where I put it. You could hear it like you could hear it like drag across the bar. And yeah, sure as shit, I'd look back, it would be a foot from where I know I put it. I'd make a mental note. It's like I put it right here, right where this bar ends. And it'd be like a quarter into the middle of the bar. I started doing that every night and it was pretty consistent. And then after that, I started experimenting a little more because I heard from one of my other coworkers that they would see cue balls rolling into pockets with nobody around. And I was like, okay, well, I'm cleaning, I'm bored. Why not check it out? I put a cue ball in the middle of one of the pool tables. Didn't matter which pool table I put it on. I would go and clean a bathroom and I'd come back, that cue ball would be rolling into a socket, no matter which pool table I put it into. And I checked everything. All of those tables were brand new and they were level. And that happened every single time I did it, without fail. And I made that like my nightly routine just to, play around. And like, I got pretty used to that. It's almost like it would wait for me to start walking down the hallway before it would push it to like make sure that I saw that it was doing it. And then from there is the women's bathroom, which I did not like going into the women's bathroom in 3 in the side at all. But I had to because it was my job. It always felt like there was somebody in there. There's 3 stalls in the women's bathroom. And there was one night I walked in and before the light turned on, the automatic light, there were a pair of feet, clear as day, clear as I'm looking at you right now, in the middle stall in the women's bathroom. And as soon as the light clicked on, gone. I thought I was losing it. It seemed like they were like a middle-aged woman's feet. It was kind of, they were just very white and very just like, it was very out of place. You know what I mean? I saw it every other night after that until I talked to somebody about it. And that's one of the old bookkeepers. I told her about it and she looked at me and she was like, you saw that too? And then I talked to one of the bartenders, Mickey, and he was like, yeah, I see that all the time. And he's like, yeah, I hate going into the women's bathroom. It's not cool. It seemed like the person that was standing there didn't have any clothes on at all, kind of thing. They're always facing towards the door in the stall, like they were staring at the door. And same for everyone else too. They always said it looked like there was somebody just standing there. Same stall, middle one every time. Every other day I would see that, and I kind of got used to it. And it was just kind of one of those like, you know? Yeah, and that's when things started to like kind of ramp up a little bit. That same bathroom at 3 in the side, I remember one night, this is the only time this ever happened. This was at 3:30 in the morning. I was going towards the bathroom and the door was cracked. That door is super heavy. It takes a lot for somebody even to hold that door up. And I walked from the bar in like from the pool hall in 3 in the side to where that door is that leads to the women's bathroom. The door was cracked and I looked at it and I saw an eye looking straight at me. And as soon as I looked at it, the door slammed shut. And I opened the door. There's nobody in there. It happened in less than a second. It was very quick. I literally turned my head, eye contact was made, and the door slammed shut. I basically kicked open the door, and there was nobody in there. I think the color of the eye that I saw was green. I'm not quite sure because it happened very fast. It was enough for me to get out of there very quickly, though. I did not feel like I was alone in that moment, and my whole spine vibrated. Everything in my body was telling me to get out of the basement. I came back the next day. Never happened again. The feet were still there. Like, it was just kind of like we all kind of joked about it. It was all just kind of like, she's down there again. You know, that one was, I've never seen like a manifestation like that where it was clear as day. It was literally like somebody was like peeking at me. Like, I saw it.
July 1st, 2019, 3:30 a.m. Fairweather Inn, Virginia City, room 2. Awoke from a dead sleep to our 15-year-old talking to himself. When I turned to see what he was doing, since his words were not making any sense, there was an extremely bright light that lit up the room in the shape of a person between both beds. It disappeared after only a few seconds. June 27th, 2019. I've been coming and visiting since I was a little girl. My sister came to visit, so we came back to visit, walked upstairs, and we both hear a baby crying. We joked it was a ghost, but upon checking with the front desk clerk when leaving, she informed us that there were no babies staying at the hotel. Whoa. June 28th, 2019, room 15. I felt a presence, very calm. Sarah. June 7th, lobby. The parlor door shut by itself. All evening, it felt like someone was behind me. Very creepy feeling all night. Front desk clerk. June 8th. The creepy feeling from last night is gone. I was cleaning room 1, making the bed, and heard a girl's voice from under the bed say, "Come find me." July 7th, 2021. All was quiet all night, nothing weird. First thing in the morning, I was standing by the heater and stated that I was cold. The heater clicked on all by itself. Then it came on again for 5 seconds and went off again. Spoke to the front desk. They turned the main switches off 3 weeks ago. August 26, 2021, room number 10. Woke up many times. Once while awake, I heard 2 men in our room talking. Had something like a horse brush go down my arm. Also heard noises outside of room. We were the only ones on the floor.
We live up on the hill in Virginia City, Montana. It's a ghost town, and that's what it's known for. It's the most intact mining town in the United States, and a lot of bad stuff happened here in the 1800s between the South and the North. A lot of people were murdered, and a lot of people are still haunting Virginia City today. It was really windy day all day here. This was 3 years ago. That was the third year we were in, so we've been here 4 years ago. And we lived up on, it was the only condominium, basically. It's a condo or townhouse in town. It was built after the building that was there was knocked down or burned or something. I don't know the whole story. So we stayed there, rented out for the whole year, for the 6 months we were here. And the wind was blowing really hard. And I've got a bad heart, so I'm on a CPAP. And when the wind was blowing, it blew all the power in town. And I got to tell you, it's not the worst being in a town, a ghost town, without lights. It's freaking scary. And there was no lights on. Everything was blown out this whole town, and it wasn't going to get put back on until the next day about 10 or 11 o'clock because they had to come all the way from Butte to do it. We just don't have power people here, could do that. So it was really warm, and we were in the back bedroom. I told my wife, I said, I just got to move up front. I don't have a CPAP. I can't get my CPAP because there's no power to work, so I couldn't breathe very well. So I moved up front. And as I was laying down, I fell asleep, and it was about, I think I looked at my phone, it was 2 o'clock or something like that. I heard somebody walking on the upper deck with very loud boots. And the door was ajar because I kept it open, but it kept going and slamming, so I kept it open, and all of a sudden the door pushed open. And I sat up in my bed, and that's when I looked at myself, what the hell's going on? And it got really cold, and all of a sudden I felt somebody push me down in the bed and cover my mouth with their hand. And I don't know how long it lasted, 2 minutes or something like that, and I struggled to get up. I'm a pretty big guy. I struggled to get up, couldn't move. And then I didn't hear any laughter, didn't hear any talk, it didn't say anything. The door slammed and the boots walked off the deck. Now the deck you can't get to but through the inside of the house. You can't get it from the back, from the house, unless you climbed up it. So I got up and I ran to my wife to see if she was okay. Well, I looked down at her and she had cigar burns on her face and her eyes were completely like dead fish eyes. Whatever it was in the room put that in my mind, my psyche, to see what I was looking at. And I woke her up and I asked her if she was okay, and she was fine. And I told her about the story, and then like 2 days later, I think we were at somewhere in Bozeman for a restaurant, and I just broke down crying. I said, I gotta get out of here. I said, what I saw, what I felt, I don't ever want to feel that again. And we smudged the room, and we did burning sage, and never happened again. But that was the scariest. And when you talk to people in town, they go, well, you've been here like 4 years. Or, yeah, you've been here 2 years, 3 years, whatever it was. It's about time you experience some ghostly experience. I just looked at him. I said, I can't. If this happens again, we're gone. I wasn't experiencing a ghost. I experienced pure evil. Whoever it was pure evil.
I lived behind this grocery store on the south side of town in Missoula. I was semi-homeless at the time. I was sleeping on the couch in my buddy's house, and it was this yellow house. His room was downstairs. It was this concrete room. The whole basement was concrete. Shitty wooden steps. We hung out there for a long time. So there was this one night, we found an old book under the staircase in his room, which was the basement. I can't remember what book it was, but it was completely covered in mushrooms and was just disintegrated. It was a blue paperback. I want to say it was about as big as like a Hardy Boys like paperback. The cover itself had like holes in it, like something was eating at it, you know what I mean? And then the spine had like mushrooms growing out of it, and so did some of the pages, and it looked like it was covered in dirt, like somebody like was trying to hide it or something. And we opened it, and it had text in it, but it was like somebody was writing over it in text a little bit, like in between like the bind and shit. Like it was like supposed to be somebody's journal, but it wasn't. You know what I mean? Like it was something they would just doodle in, kind of. We kept it in the living room. Ever since we pulled that book out, weird shit started happening. The house felt different. It didn't feel like the same house. Like doors would close by themselves, cupboards would close and open, shit would shift across the kitchen counters. Yeah, lights turning on and off, things being misplaced and then being put places that we would never put them. Like forks would be in the tub. They'd be in the bathroom, like in the bathroom sink, in the bathtub, like plates. Books would be in the kitchen sink, shit like that. But there was this one time in particular that really, really, I've never seen anything like this. We were sitting there one night, and the living room, you can look straight out of the living room into the kitchen, and you can see the front door. Kitchen counter's right next to the front door. That's where it starts. There's a fan right next to the front door. We're talking, and we both get really quiet. And we both look at the front door. The front door and the screen door were closed. So we both pause, and we look. The screen door flies open. The front door flies open. The fan, which is like a 10-pound fan that's on the kitchen counter, flies across the kitchen, hits the wall, breaks, and then his door, we hear like a creak, and then we hear all the way down the steps, and then all three doors close at once. And it was dead silent. And we slept in the living room that night because we weren't going fucking down there. Like, yeah. Nothing really happened after that. It got like eerily silent though. And we moved out 2 or 3 months later.
So there's a lot of things that happened in Helena, that can explain that residual energy, I think. And there are a lot of places that are haunted here. Like my office, for example. We're in Reader's Alley, which is the oldest territorial period neighborhood here in Helena. And it is listed in the National Register. It's a series of what were originally little apartments that housed men, miners mostly. And later it housed artists and sheepmen and people who needed shelter during the wintertime. And, each little apartment had no running water and still doesn't. It had a place for a wood stove, no cooking facilities, nothing like that, just these little rooms. And I have an office that is just, one of those little apartments. And we're sitting here right now. I did have this really great experience. It was just before COVID happened. I was writing something. I was sitting at my desk. I didn't have any music on. It was very quiet. Nobody was around. There was no one next door on either side of me on that particular day. And as I was sitting there, I began to hear this weird noise. And I thought, what is that, As I listened to it, I have a very, very creaky floor. And I realized it was somebody was walking across my floor. And I could identify every single footstep all the way across the room to the other wall. But there wasn't anybody there, And I have a theory as to who it is. I have a photograph of the last person who lived in this office as an apartment. And he was a very wonderful veteran person. He made the poppies that they give away on Memorial Day. And apparently this apartment was full of those red poppies, just full. But he was a very careful person and sort of took care of all of the elderly men who lived here at that time. And I'm pretty sure it was him. But further, my neighbor next door always brings her dog to work. She has a barbershop, and she had a dog that had recently passed away, and he was elderly, and everybody loved Charlie. But anyway, not too long after Charlie passed away, a friend of mine wanted to do an investigation in my office and she wanted to leave a camera overnight. And so I let her leave the camera, and she also had a recorder in here. And so she recorded all night long and listened to the recordings, and she didn't get anything on the camera. But on the sound recording, every once in a while, she got this weird jingle. And she's the kind of person that will record every sound she can think of that might sound like that and see what compares to it. And the thing that compared closest to it was a dog's collar. And so it could have been Charlie, but also in the photograph that I have of Stark Evans, the last guy who lived in this apartment, he's feeding a dog at the door. So some dog is still around, and my own dog won't come into this room. He doesn't like it.
Nevada City, Montana, June 21st through 23rd, 2019. My husband and I stayed in cabin 7. Friday night, June 21st, was the only experience we had. We both had felt, and my husband had seen, the man in the rocking chair. He wasn't there for very long, nor did he bother us. My husband also saw a little girl peeking through the bathroom window while coming back from Virginia City Friday night and sitting in our truck. My husband also saw 2 horses and a carriage with 2 more horses. We were never disturbed or scared. We will be back. June 30th, 2023, cabin number 4. Around 4 a.m., my hand was yanked, and it woke me up. Around 11 p.m., the white rocking chair started rocking by itself. August 27th, 2021, cabin number 7. Had a visitor in the middle of the night. It came and sat on the side of my bed close enough to kiss me on the cheek, but didn't. No noise, just sat on the bed and then was gone. Very special. September 5th, 2022. Stayed in cabin number 4. At some point in the night, I couldn't sleep. I'm not sure of the time, but I felt a calm female presence standing next to the bed, and it touched my back calmly. This morning, the name Ellen came to mind. And this morning, the room key was moved from the bed to the bathroom. Pretty cool night.
I work at Double Front Cafe, downtown in Missoula, Montana. I'm a bartender in the basement. So probably about 3.5 years into me working there-ish. There was one night, it was in August. I had a couple customers. One of the things about Double Front is it's in the basement. There are no windows. There's no lighting. And especially at that time of the year, it doesn't really even get light from outside. It's like 8 o'clock or something, and all the power blows. The doors down in the basement are like fire safety breakaway doors, so they're magnetized. So if all the power goes out in the building, those doors slam shut. And I didn't know that until that happened. The only light down there is our emergency lights that are like tiny little flashlights, essentially. So it's pitch black down there. I had to sit down there in the dark with customers for a minute. It was really, really disorienting. We're all working with like headlamps and like phone lights, you know? So finally get customers out. Trying to figure out how to do everything there, right? My boyfriend is the only one that was hanging out with me while we were all trying to figure this out. The cooks are upstairs trying to do everything. My boyfriend goes outside for a cigarette. I'm at the very, very end of my closing stuff. I was faced towards the register on the back side of the bar. And I turned around. I swear to God, there was this thing. This figure that was right next to that Kino machine, and it was like hunched over in the classic like Nosferatu, like the 20s version of Nosferatu, like the hunched big tall guy that was lurking in that corner. And I know how big he was because of like where his shoulders hit at the top of that Kino machine, but his head was like slumped to that level as well. So like the hunch thing was the thing that was like super like disorienting. He was just all black. It was just a black figure. No clothes, no. Just kind of a figure. There's no face at all. And the only reason I saw it was because it took a step. And that is, of the like handful of pretty fucking weird things that I've seen down there, that one was the only thing that actually made me like yell, like actually like ah, and jump back. And as soon as I did, it was gone. It was so distinct, like humanoid, like a shadow sort of thing. It was just the shape, but it was so distinct. Like, yeah, not wearing anything, but just so distinctly a person. I was scared. I was really scared, actually. That, like I said, that was the first time that I ever... Because that was one of the more recent ones. So I'd been seeing things, having experiences for a while at that point that was just like, wow, that was... I don't want to be here anymore. But that was the first time that I was actually scared. That I actually, like, screamed and jumped back. And it was gone. And I have not seen it since.
You know, cemeteries aren't usually haunted, in my opinion. People have stories, but I don't think they usually pan out. But Benton Avenue Cemetery here in Helena is different. And that is a place that I feel sure is really haunted. I used to do a lot of day-long field trips with third and fourth graders. One of the schools, for Georgians, the cemetery is halfway between the downtown and their school. So we would always walk to the cemetery and have a break as they were going back at the end of the day. And so this particular day, I had spent the whole day, you know, talking downtown, talking about Helena history and that. And we had come to the cemetery. And I did some history about the cemetery and let the kids then go kind of look at tombstones or whatever. 3 of the girls went running over to this one area that's over on the far side, across the cemetery, kind of over by the fence. And there's a tree there. There are not very many trees in the cemetery, but there's a tree there. And these 3 girls went over there. And I happened to be standing with a couple of the parents who were chaperoning, and we were just chatting, and the 3 girls came running up to us, and they were all 3 in tears. And they were so scared. They were shaking. They said, you know, we saw this girl, we saw this girl, we saw this girl. What do you mean you saw this girl? Well, we saw this girl, and she was sitting over there under that tree, and then she wasn't there anymore, and she had on a yellow dress. And I said, well, was she a little girl? No, she was a teenager. Well, did you look to see, you know, who is buried over there? No, we were too scared. So a couple of the parents went over to the tree to see whose tombstones were over there. And in fact, there was one young girl, Fern Marie Wilson, whose tombstone is there. And she was about 14 or 15 when she died in 1911. So I took the information. I couldn't wait to get to the library to see what I could find out about Fern Marie, and I found out a ton. There had been a coroner's inquest because she did take her own life. She had been living with her grandmother, who ran a boarding house for railroad men. And the grandmother's freaking out that the granddaughter is going to get in trouble with one of these railroad men because she was always flirting with them. And the grandmother's always on her case. And so in the deposition that is, you know, recorded there, it's written out and easy for someone to access. And it was in the paper also that the grandmother was, you know, on her case all the time about not flirting with these guys as they came off shift. Fern would like to sit in the tree in her grandmother's yard and flirt with these guys, and she was always getting in trouble for it. So she just had enough. She went to the pharmacy, bought some carbolic acid, came home, put it in a cup, and drank it, and died a horrible, horrible death in her grandmother's front yard, basically. It took her about 3 hours. Doctor came, couldn't do anything. And you know, carbolic acid burns you. and she had burns all around her face, around her mouth. I had written the story about it, and I have a friend who is a really good medium, and I wanted to see if my research checked out with what she might get from the area. I didn't tell her anything about the incident, but I took her there with me, and we went to the tree. She said, oh, there's a teenager here. She's sitting in the tree. She's going to be here for a while. She really likes that tree. And she has on a yellow dress. And more than that, she said she has on this beautiful lace collar over this dress that she's very, very proud of. And she went on to tell me some other stuff that I had researched, how she was having trouble with her grandmother and all those things. And so anyway, I finished up the story, and not too long after that, I had another group from this same school, but these were the next year's fourth graders. So the teacher said, why don't you tell them about Fern Marie, but don't tell them too much because I don't want them to get scared, So we came to the cemetery, and I said to the kids, last year there were 3 girls who actually claimed that they saw a ghost sitting under that tree, and she had on a yellow dress. That's all I told them. And so when they had free time, about 20 of them went running over to the tree. I gave them a few minutes, and I went over to see what they were doing, and those kids were walking around like zombies. I said, what's the matter with you guys? And one of the boys said, well, some of us saw her. I said, oh, sure you did. I couldn't believe it. So I said, well, how many of you? About 6 of them raised their hands. I said, well, what did you see? Well, we saw this teenager, and she was sitting in that tree there, and she had one hand on this branch, and one of her feet was on this branch, and they described in detail what they had seen. And then one of the girls piped up and said, yeah, and she had on that yellow dress like you said, but she also had this beautiful lace collar over it. And when we were walking back to the gate, when the kids were being corralled to go back to their classroom, one of the boys sort of stepped in line with me, and he said, that was the freakiest thing I ever saw. He said, I saw her, and her face was like all white around her mouth. I hadn't told them how she died. Just a very unusual event. And to have it happen twice with 2 different classes in broad daylight like that, It doesn't have to be nighttime to experience the supernatural.
You're just going to naturally see stuff in the mountains, whether you believe it in or not. My name is Teague Goodvoice from Browning, Montana. And yeah, Bigfoot is real. I decided I was going to scout hunting spots. And there's a road that leaves Bonner, Montana, and goes to Lincoln, Montana, and that's Highway 200. So I drive up, and I do see some roads, and I turn off on them, and they're all residential. So I turn around, and I finally find one where it heads up a ways, and then there's a fork in the road. This is the first time I was on this road. I went to the left on this fork. And it starts heading up into the mountains. And I'm just cruising. This is evening. hunting season would probably be October, possibly early November. As I go up, because it's evening, I'm passing other cars and other hunters, like I can see them, they're all hunters, and they're all coming down because it's evening, so I go up 7 to 10 miles, and once I start climbing, it's a couple more miles up, and it's a really nice drive, actually. I've done it since, but as you go up, I'm getting pretty far, and it's getting, the sun is starting to go down. I know I don't have a whole lot of light left. And so I stopped in front of one of these gates and parked because I knew I didn't have enough daylight. And so I decided to go for a little walk beyond this gate, leave my truck. I'm walking just on this logging road, and it's a pretty good road. And it's kind of following the mountain, and it goes back into this little ravine, and then it cuts back on that ravine and just keeps along. So I'm quite a ways back here, and the sun is down now, but it's still light out, like it just went down. I walk up and I see that it goes up this ravine, and there's some water coming down, a little creek, like a little small creek, like you could just jump across it. And it heads up into the ravine, and I just think, well, I'll go take a little walk up here and just kind of see what's going on up here. And so I go off the path 150 feet, and I seen a game trail, so I just followed it. I walked up a ways, and I seen some poop. I just assumed it was bear, but the thing that I noticed is that it was fresh. Like it was fresh. And as soon as I seen it fresh, I was just like, oh, there's a bear around here. And I thought at the moment, like I should turn around, but I thought, well, I'll just go a little bit more, Famous last words. Against my better judgment, I took a few more steps up, probably 15 feet, all with a bad feeling, because I was thinking there was a bear. And so I'm on point, I'm on high alert. And that's when it sounded like a tree right next to me. There was 3 loud knocks. And it's just like if a human grabs a big stick and just hits a tree and it has that wood echoey sound 3 times, like it was right next to me. And I went on high alert. I quickly swung in that direction. It was to my right as I walked up the trail. And I'm just looking, I'm scanning for anything that looks, that made that sound. And I don't see nothing. And I'm looking at like every log, tree, grass. I'm just looking as best I can, scanning everything, because it sounded like it was right next to me. What knocks right next to you on the top of a remote mountain way away from people? What knocks? I mean, a lot of people have said, well, a woodpecker. It ain't no woodpecker. Like, this is a stick hitting wood. Like, you're gonna know the difference if you hear it. And the only time I heard that was the year before, and that was a lot farther off, or not. I don't think it wasn't the year before, but when I had heard it with my cousin, that's when I kind of put two and two together. But the question is like, what knocks in the middle of the mountains? You know, and to this day, I don't know, but it doesn't make any sense. And if it was humans that were just like, first of all, what kind of a human's going to be up in the mountains, you know, messing with another human when the sun is down? You know, there's no cars around, you know, like I hadn't seen a car in a long time, like miles and miles. Only cars I seen when I first started going up. And then you've got a fully armed hunter and you're going to mess with him on the top of a mountain by knocking right next to him, and he shoots you. You know, like, what's the goal? So I don't know. Doesn't make any sense to me, you know, but it happened.
July 9th, 2020. As a non-ghost believer, I did not expect the experience I encountered in room 12. As my boyfriend asks, what are the odds we have an experience? At that exact moment, a cup on the nightstand made a popping sound and started to spin. Creepy. September 2nd, 2019. Saw a large orb coming out of room 15 early in the morning. Also saw a figure peek out around the corner at us while on a morning walk. No one was there. The building was locked. August 15th, 2021, room number 9, night number 1. Couldn't sleep, didn't sleep. Between 2:30 and 4 a.m., heard loud door slams above. 10 minutes later, felt something shaking my pillow against my back. I was facing the wall as if to wake me up. I thought, okay, this just actually happened. My son was fast asleep on the other side of me. Tried to sleep, and every time I was nodding off, was woken up by what felt like feathers across my face, or heavy pressure pressing down on me against the sheets. Something did not want me to sleep. I said, come on, cut this out. Slept for 1.5 hours at least after I said stop it. Night number 2, between same hours, was woken by a loud banging door slamming above in room 10, almost like someone was in a fight. Kept on for about 5 to 10 minutes. Great experience, but not a great night's sleep. We'll be back. Room 16. Piece of glitter floating horizontally through the room. Peaceful spirit.